So give me a little bit of context around the people who are in the top 2 to 5%. What are they actually doing?
What are they actually doing? It's a good question. So obviously they've built clientele through that phone call model usually.
Yeah.
Done that first year or two, got themselves on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
Usually their business sucks. They're just good at training people.
Yeah.
So they're busy all the time but not productive.
Yeah.
They're avoiding that next step work.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't want to post because they're worried what other trainers will think of them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to put out content for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
They have had a good run because in person they're very charismatic and magnetic and they can attract people to work with them. But when it comes to the internet, they suck at it.
Yeah.
They can't convey that, so they struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So they start to just like hide and pull themselves back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes, I'm too busy or whatever.
The procrastination kicks in, which
Yeah.
is essentially just fear in disguise.
Yeah.
So I think the way that I would look at that is you already know what you're doing in your specialized field, right? Like you know how to coach people. It's then taking it to the next level and actually uncovering, and this is where the 80% mindset comes in, is because you generally know what you need to do. You're just actually not willing to show up and do that thing. So if I think about like the posting online, a lot of people have a fear of judgment, fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, fear of failing publicly. Like, oh my God, imagine if that person I worked with 10 years ago sees me posting this
Yeah.
and then my business fails. So understanding what's actually holding you back to be able to achieve what you need to achieve. And that posting thing comes up a lot with entrepreneurs, and people aren't out there judging you. Like we worry about what people think way too much, and people aren't thinking about you.
Yeah.
They are just generally not thinking about you. And I think if you want to be able to perform in the top 2, top 5%, you need to look at what those people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be able to implement that into your life and your business. So that comes back to structure. What are you doing day in and day out in your business to make sure that you're actually going to achieve that? And if you're not doing the thing, and this comes back to the procrastination, we always procrastinate on the things that we don't feel comfortable doing, that we don't think we're like good at, or that isn't like pushing at us outside of our comfort zone or pushing our edges. And I think really honing in on the mindset and who you need to become the person who is in the top 2 or 5% is what's going to unlock it for you. Because you can be the greatest coach in the world and greatest trainer in the world. You get all of these amazing results. But if no one knows that that's what you do and how you do it, cool.
Yeah. You stay at the same clients forever. Yeah.
But you'll stay with those same clients, and you look at people who have done what you've done before, and you take the lessons that they've learned, because it's going to help shortcut you to achieving it yourself. But also it allows you to make it your own. So you can go, okay, they've done this really well. I don't really like jumping on. Like I do a lot of talking head videos, and some people hate those, where that's like kind of like that's my wheelhouse. Like I'm better at talking head than trying to come up with a carousel and give you 5 tips about doing X, Y, Z, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So really honing in on who you need to become, but also what approach you want to take. So we all have values in life, and how we build our business should be built around our values. So, okay, if you value connection, do you want to do in-person events? Do you want to do different things? How are you actually going to stand out against your competition and actually show that you're a good trainer, but you also know business? Because that's the next step of understanding how to actually operate a business, which nobody got into business to do, but everybody actually has to learn and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple of things that come up through that. So we talk a lot about like the be, do, have mentality.
Yeah.
And for trainers, it's really easy to paint a picture of like a lot of the people we're involved with are either in like performance sport or like physique sport or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like you don't become a bodybuilder on the day you're on stage.
No.
Like it's 2 years before all the training, and then it's 20 weeks out when you start the diet, and you behave like a bodybuilder for an extended period of time, and then you put on the fake tan and now you're a bodybuilder.
Yeah. The fake tan.
Yeah. So it's like the same concept, like that be, do, have idea. It's like, well, you have to behave like the person that's already in the 2% to become the 2%. It's not like you can change your habits once you get there.
Yeah.
Doesn't
And
work
I
that
think
way.
people think it's embarrassing. So say you're a new PT and you've got 100 followers on Instagram or wherever you're advertising your services. showing up to 100 people. If you were in a room with 100 people, you'd be like, whoa, that's actually a lot of people. Or if you've got 500 people following you, showing up and doing the thing and failing early and learning the lessons when there's less people is less scary than building your following and then starting to try and show up and do that same thing. And I think people get so caught up in the fear and their self-doubt and making, like, if they get no likes or comments, what they actually make that mean about them. And it doesn't mean anything. It just means that I've scrolled past, I liked what you said, but I just didn't bother to stop and comment or whatever it is, right? And then you see people drop into your DMs and they're like, oh, I seen that video about this. You're like, oh, well, no one commented on that or no one liked that. Or like, oh my God.
We used to bang our head against the wall with clients to be like, oh, I really liked this post. You're like, I know you didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I know you didn't comment on it.
Yeah.
I hate you.
You're like, come on, get my ego.
Yeah.
But I've had that similar situation is like you show up before you're ready because that's how you build confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence comes from taking action. If you start taking action when you feel ready, you'll never start taking it.
Yeah.
And you can't wait a year, 2, 3 years into your business to start taking action if you want to perform and make those 10K months.
Yeah. A staple part of the early part of our course, we use like leverage Carol Dweck's mindset and that kind of whole idea around the growth mindset. Is it sophisticated enough to just encourage people to be like, the big thing for us with social media is stop saying I'm bad at social media and start saying I'm learning social media. Like, is that language change, that concept enough?
I think we all have stories and that's our belief system, right? So whatever you think about yourself is true. So if you tell yourself that you're not confident, of course you're not going to show up on stories. If you tell yourself you're a really great high performer, you're going to act in that way. Maybe you're going to implement the habits that show that you're a high performer. So everything that you tell yourself about who you are and what your identity is true and true to you because you're making it true. I think you need to really understand what belief systems that you have. What proof do you have in place like that have you experienced which tells you that you're not confident? What experience do you have that actually circumvents that thought that you have and says, actually, you've got 10 pieces of proof that shows that you are confident. You've just not done this before and you are still learning. I think the one thing I see with the growth mindset is you've either got a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, or you're learning to grow a growth mindset. And we can find ourselves trapped in comparison. We can find ourselves trapped in self-doubt, all of these things. But when you start changing the stories that you tell about yourself, I do a lot of work with my clients on this around their limiting beliefs, and it's a bit of a buzzword in the mindset space, but the beliefs that you have about yourself will either propel you forward or they'll limit you. And it's up to you to work with someone, if you can't do it yourself, to start to change those beliefs. And you change those beliefs by getting more confident and taking action, but also rewriting those stories and really delving into why do you think that way? What proof do you have? What proof do you have that it's absolute bullshit? How can you actually work and make sure that any beliefs and mindset things that are holding you back can actually flip around and push you forward? Because I think personally, I don't subscribe to affirmations only because I think if you don't truly believe the thing that you're saying out loud, you're just like, bullshit in the mirror. You're like, oh yeah, I'm so great because. So I think it's really like shortening the gap between who you need to be and who you think you are right now, and start building those proof concepts of, okay, I'm learning, I'm growing, this is how I'm going to approach things, and how you actually implement that time and time again. Because when you're building a growth mindset, yes, you think that you're always learning, but when you're in the thick of it, you don't really look at it from that perspective. You're like, I'm never going to get better. Like, I'm not good at this. You always retreat back to that fixed mindset. And it takes a lot of time and effort to really rewire your brain to think about it in a different way.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of halfway between the affirmation crowd and then the Hormozy, just like, you need an undeniable stack of proof, do it anyway. Yeah. How do you do it anyway?
I think if you don't have proof, you need to build proof.
Yeah.
But also I think I always say to people, there is one decision that you need to make, and that decision is going to be the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
Whether in 10 years time you look back and you think, ooh, like, why did I do that this way? Or I should have done it like this, or whatever it might be. You need to be able to go, okay, I'm in a position right now where I don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still learning. I'm a beginner wherever you are at in your journey. But I know that there's people that have come before me that started as a beginner too. Because when I think about, like, if you're in a gym and you walk in there and there's like this real jacked person, or sorry, if you walk into a gym and there's this real jacked person, or there's like this amazing booty, and you look at them and you think, I want that.
Yeah.
But you don't actually look back and go, okay, they've been getting jacked for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
They are consistent with their meal plan. They're consistent with their routine, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm just stepping in off the street. I've never trained before, or I've been off training for 2 years, and I'm comparing myself to that person who's been spending 5 years doing it versus the person who I am right now, and I'm a beginner.
Yeah.
So meeting yourself where you're at is so important. I think we jump the gun to be like, I'm a business owner. I should be making 100K a year. And I started 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And then you end up getting down on yourself because you're not achieving the level of success, which isn't actually relevant to where you are at in your actual journey.
Yeah.
So I think really honing in on meeting yourself where you're at, making sure that you've got a plan and structure around how you're going to achieve what you want to achieve, and get that support and accountability along the way to make sure that you actually achieve it.
Yeah. Yeah, the comparison one's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think even from an engagement standpoint too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. One of the biggest challenges we're finding at the moment too is like the vanity metrics don't lead to success that much either.
Yeah.
Like, and that gets so confusing for people.
Yeah. The likes and comments, unless they're leading to a conversion, they're just likes and comments.
Yeah.
It's so funny because in my experience, when I first started my business 18 months ago, when I was working in HR, I wasn't posting on Instagram and all of that kind of stuff. But you're trying to seek validation from others
Mm-hmm.
in what you're actually saying. And if they don't validate you by putting a like or a comment, you feel like that what you've actually said isn't valuable.
Yeah.
You feel like what you've put out there isn't actually worth
That's so
putting it
interesting.
out there. Like, you're looking
Yeah.
for that validation from someone else when you should be giving that validation to yourself. So if you think about the business of service, so servicing people and giving people value, everything that you put on the internet, you might be thinking, oh, what if someone else judges me? What if another trainer calls that statistic wrong, or whatever it is? But you're showing up the best way that you can and providing the information the best way you can of service to someone else to provide value. If
Yeah.
people don't like it or don't comment on it, who cares?
Yeah.
And there's so many people that have, like, I've got on discovery calls for my business. They don't even follow me on Instagram, or they've been
don't-
following me for ages, and they're like, actually, this video, and this video. I'm like, what? I was
Yeah.
like, no, like, I thought that video didn't have an impact, but it's secretly having an impact. So you don't actually know what impact you're having on people outside of these vanity metrics.
Yeah.
And people, like, the way I actually use social media, I don't like and comment on things.
And worse
So
than
how are you expecting everybody else? So,
I
like,
look at other trainers, I'm like, how do you get so many comments? It's like,
Yeah.
you don't comment on anyone's shit, dude.
yeah. And I think you've also got to put yourself in the shoes of, like, how do you actually use social media?
Yeah.
If you're not liking and commenting, how can you expect everybody else to like
To
and
engage.
comment?
Yeah.
I'm still watching your videos and seeing the things,
Yeah.
but I'm actually not just stopping by and being like comment.
Yeah.
It's just not how I operate on social media.
So this leads me to an interesting story, which I think I've told in the pod before, but you can hear it again. When we went into lockdowns the first time here,
Mhm.
I went in this like blog writing spree.
Love it.
And it wasn't like, what's a quick blog I can put together to get out that'll help people? It was like, I was trying to essentially get my entire coaching method down on paper.
Yeah.
For me to understand it, and then also for that validation that like I knew other coaches were going to read it, and if they said it was good, I'd be like,
Yes.
and like I was sending
I'm
it.
worthy.
Yeah, I was sending it to guys in the States and be like, hey, pull this apart. Like,
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
me if this is good. Going to workshops, paying for a ticket, barely listening, and just being like, can you tell me if this is good at the end?
Mhm.
So I did like one a month, I think. I hired an editor. It was like the
Yeah.
first time I was like not just a kid that trained people in the gym.
Yeah.
It was like the first attempt at anything kind of media based. Obviously, was posting content, but never to this level. And I started getting like better athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was into powerlifting, and all of a sudden I had a couple of like, your numbers are already national standard,
Mm-hmm.
and like you're already a weapon, and I just get to just structure it, and you're going to be even better.
Yeah.
And it was probably 3 or 4 conversations I had. I was like, what like made you reach out to me? Because a little bit of imposter syndrome. I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm just a guy that trains at a health club.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not a good athlete. Like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, you just really seem to know what you're talking about. Like, I've seen some of your content, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, like, what have you seen? They're like, oh, I saw a couple of articles. I'm like, oh. And because
My articles.
I put months into them, right? So I was like, which one? And they'd be like, oh, I think it was this one. I'd be like, oh, like what in it? And then within 30 seconds, I was like, you haven't read one of them.
Yeah.
It's the tile on Instagram that says I exist off Instagram.
Yeah.
And I wrote something complex that you were like, that guy must be smart.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck. And that changed how I looked at content at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think only in the last 6 months have I really, maybe even less, got on top of it. So I run our STC Learn channel
Mm-hmm.
and my personal one.
Yeah.
And what you were saying there in terms of like seeking validation,
Mm-hmm.
I used to battle with, I'd make content that on paper was good,
Yeah.
but I wasn't in it, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Like it wasn't a part of me put on the internet,
Yeah.
which means like, oh, it's not authentic or it's not whatever was the feelings that I would have.
Mm-hmm.
And then the most recent STC campaign that I made, wrote it in 90 minutes, filmed it in 60 minutes, sent it off, got it produced, and didn't touch it after that. It just went up.
Yeah.
Probably the most successful campaign we've ever run.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of trying to get the validation from this is my inner thoughts, absolute representation of who I am as a person in one carousel,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, what's the client's problem? How I solve it? And how do I make it somewhat entertaining?
Mm-hmm.
Go.
Yeah.
Put it out and not even look at the metrics
Mm-hmm.
until a week later and look at the data and move on and look at the data and move on.
Yeah.
And it was more successful.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay.
What have I been doing?
Yeah. So from a validation standpoint, it's like, well, the validation needs to come with the coaching outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's where I place my value now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, even with my one-on-one coaching, it's like, the thing I have is like, aim up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, cool, you PB'd your deadlift, but is your life better? That's
Yeah.
kind of like my
Mm-hmm.
coaching mentality. And then obviously in business coaching, is like, I don't want you just to make more money,
Mm-hmm.
be more fulfilled, have more time, like have a better life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know how to pass on that shift,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's impossible to say to like someone in their first year or their first
Yeah.
5 years to be like, hey, don't put any self-worth on your content. But do you think that's what the successful people are doing?
So I think content's a funny game, right? Because you think people want a specific type of content, and what we end up doing is we try proving ourselves in our content.
Yeah.
So if people know that I know everything about this topic, then they're going to trust me to be their coach.
Yeah.
Whereas actually people don't care that you know what you know to the extent that you think that they do.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're, like you said, moving to that problem and solution and how you can actually help them is super important, because they can self-identify with the problems that they have. They can see that you know your stuff and you can provide a solution because you've done it before.
Yeah.
And then they can get to know you and how you operate and see if that's actually for them. So understanding that if you're looking for validation through your content, you're probably never going to get it. You need to be able to give yourself that self-validation. So really honing in and knowing your own worth, and that you know your stuff, and that when you put content out there, regardless of what anyone thinks or says or anything like that, it is still worthy content, and don't make it mean anything about you.
Yeah.
When it's the ego side, right? Like you put something out there and you're like, it's like the, when you put so much time and effort into a video and making it like perfect and it goes to nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like it gets in the 200 jail or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
and then you just whip up something like walking down the street or like on a walk or whatever it is, and it goes gangbusters, and you think, what was the difference to that? And it's a different mindset when you're approaching that content. One's a proving mindset and one's a serving mindset. So when you're proving yourself, you're more inclined to try too hard and actually overextend trying too hard. But when you're in a service mindset, looking at the problems and the solutions that you solve, you're serving them in a different way that actually doesn't feel weird to them. About like, it's almost like taking it out of like a journal, like a video journal of yourself and what you do and how you do it and things like that, and actually making it about the person that you serve versus the person you are.
Jesus. That's clipped that.
Boom.
All right. 90 seconds before we get buzzed off.
Okay. That went quick.
How do I flip from proving myself to serving, say with content, because it's the number one struggle that we get.
Yeah.
Without spending 14 years in the career like I have and having hundreds of transformations that I finally am like, oh, I'm actually good at my job.
Yeah. Hire a coach. I think in terms of moving from proving to serving is understanding your why. Like, what is the why behind your business? Everyone got into business for a reason. Some people get into business for money.
Yeah.
Some people get into business for time freedom. But a lot of people actually get into business for the impact that they want to have on people. And when you think about that impact, what can you do to help people know that you make that impact? Show them that you're the right person to help them achieve that, and also take yourself out of the equation, because you can still get that person that result that they're looking for regardless of your ego and what you make anything mean about you in your content. So when you move away from proving, you're almost like begging people to be like, yeah, she's really great.
Yeah.
Or yeah, he's really great. And it's like, when you move out of that proving and into serving, it allows them to see themselves. And you really need to make sure that you're focusing on your client and not yourself, because I'm not my client.
Yeah.
I was my client 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but I'm not my client right now. So my perspectives and the things that I think about things, great concepts, yes, but where I am in my journey, if I'm just talking about me all of the time, trying to prove that I know everything and this is how I can do it, I'm probably speaking to the wrong person.
Yeah.
Because that's not actually who I serve. That's the evolved version, and cool, I've got all this information and wisdom I can share. However, your client is probably at a very different stage in their journey than where you are. So you kind of have to meet them in the middle and prove that you are a good coach, but not by actually begging and proving in a way which is like, me, and actually put the onus back on them and how you serve them versus going down that route.
Epic. That was really cool.
Cool. That sounded like a ramble at the end.
No, that was really, really good. Yeah, and thankfully it was 11 minutes, not 1. I just couldn't see the 1 on the timer. So we're fine for time anyway. Tell everyone how to find you. Where do we go? And like, is there anything special that, like, what area of your business do you think like PTs are going to get a benefit from?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at the Thrive and Grow Project. You can also find me on my website, www.thriveandgrowproject.com.au.
The website's really good.
I'm actually
good stalk of that this week.
Really, I'm actually redoing the website.
Yeah.
I feel like I built that maybe 6 months into my business, and I was like, yeah, I'll just slap this together because I need to have a website. Whereas now I feel like I fine-tuned exactly what I do, who I help, and things like that. So I'm going to redo that. But you can find me on Instagram at the Thrive and Grow Project, on my website, thriveandgrowproject.com.au. I think in terms of PTs is there's a lot of things. It's mainly around clarity, and I work with a lot of people on a one-on-one basis just for a power hour of clarity, or they jump into call packs. And I think when it comes to that 80% mindset, people generally don't take action because they don't know what they need to do, why they need to do it, and the goals that they're trying to achieve. And the way that I work with clients in terms of the power hour of clarity is we create a plan. And we break through your procrastination. We move through any fears you might have, any mindset blocks, like understanding what's holding you back to be able to create a plan and put it into motion, because a lot of people are scared to make the wrong move, to make the wrong decision. Whereas when you sit down and you actually go, okay, this is what I want to achieve. this is why I want to achieve it, I can really help you distill the how you actually achieve it. So if you are stuck as a PT where in your business you don't know how to move forward, that's probably the first step. But there's a lot of other coaching programs that I do which really hone into the mindset and making sure that you're continuously taking action as well.
Yeah, I love it. And I'll speak to that from my own experiences as well. Like, I probably started seeing psych performance coaches kind of, I was like, I don't need a psychologist, I need a performance coach.
Yeah.
So I found someone that did both and then just did psychology, to be honest.
Yeah.
But a lot of what we teach in Stand Out and a lot of what I teach clients and coaches now have come from the lessons I learned in those. And I know what it's like to, like I said, pick up the phone at 6 a.m. and put it down at 9 p.m. and think I'm busy and make no progress.
Yeah.
And be like, if a client cancels, it means I'm personally a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, I understand all the stuff that you're feeling right now as a coach who's sitting in that window because it's chaos.
Yeah.
And stuff like this, it's not as woo-woo as you think. It's not like sit around, hold hands and like cry together sometimes. But it will actually help how you approach your day-to-day, and it will impact how the results you get for your clients, and it will make life way more enjoyable for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, people, when they think about mindset, there's so many mindset coaches that have come out of the mix since COVID, right?
Yeah.
But it's applying it in the right way. So how are you applying it? If you're just like, I want to have a great mindset, what does that actually mean? Like, what do you need the mindset for, and how are you actually going to practically put that to use? So if you want to start a business, if you want to show up on social media more, uncovering what's holding you back and what the fears are, the self-doubt, all of these insecurities that we have that we kind of don't recognize, and we just think that's me.
Yeah.
That's who I am. Being able to take the time to actually reflect on that and understand yourself on a deeper level and build that emotional intelligence, like you said, helps you to, one, for yourself, but also support your clients in a very different way. And if they start thinking a certain way, you're probably a bit more familiar and have that self-awareness yourself to be like, ooh, actually, I've experienced that and this is how I've worked through it. And then you also get a toolkit to be able to help yours, not to be a mindset coach for them, but like be able to have that social awareness to be like, hey, this is what's going on.
Yeah, it's what coaching is, right?
Yeah.
It's like emotional support and being able to, your job is to get the person to do the thing.
Yeah.
They can download a program anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We tune in on Wednesday on the STC Fit episode as well. Kirsty will be over there too.
Cool.
Talking about how to get better results for your clients.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you next week.